Hello everyone. We have a game, the white pieces against Misevaluating, rated 1647. He plays a Sicilian against us, so we develop our knight towards the center. He develops his knight towards the center. We're going to develop another minor piece to an active post and threaten to take the knight. So he attacks our bishop saying, why'd you put it here? If you go back, you wasted time, so take the knight, which we do. We do give up a bishop, but now that knight can never jump into d4, and because our pawn chain is going to be like this, the d4 square would have been a nice square for his knight. So he can no longer do that, put a knight here, because we took it. So he plays e6. This blocks the diagonal of his own bishop and opens up another one slightly. We want to continue advancing our position, either development, center, or king safety. You can develop a piece, which looks rather normal. But I want to go f4, which is center. It also increases the development of the rook once I get it there. So now we're looking at ideas of bringing the knight out, maybe even the queen if he doesn't develop. He hasn't developed anything yet. We have moves like bishop e3, pressuring the pawn, knight a4, or you can play on the king side, which is why you went f4 to begin with, and you go knight f3, and then you can push e5 and make some room for your knight in the center, which is a lot better. So he develops his knight. The downside is we might be able to kick it. Now, if we kick it, he'll go in the center, hitting our knight. We'll go in the center, dodging his knight. And that looks beautiful for us, so we're going to include these two moves. And now we'll continue from here with our knight on a better square, looking at an outpost, a super strong outpost, if we can get rid of his bishop somehow. Okay, so he goes b5, trying to gain space on the queen side and be consistent with his pawns. Maybe push, things like this. It all makes sense. We could just continue developing, to be honest. We don't have to react. You could react with potential pawn moves, but I feel like I just want to develop. Like, I like developing, so I'm just going to bring my other knight out in castle. And he can push. I'm going to let him, do what he wants here. Maybe, he should probably do this immediately, which is why you could have also played b3 even last turn. But I think I'll just ignore that too, if he does that. So he develops his bishop to its only square. And I'm just going to castle. It is on the dark diagonal, so I'm going to also consider king h1. Just to get it out of this diagonal. It also allows me to push my g-pawn potentially. So he plays f5, trying to stop me from gaining more space and hitting my knight. I could just have this nice wedge pawn if I retreat my knight, but there's also en passant. I don't think I want to en passant and open up all of his pieces because he looks kind of restricted right now. If I take, maybe he takes with the bishop, and he'll take back with a minor piece, open things up. So if I want to move my knight somewhere, where would be a good way to move it? If we go here, that lets him trade some stuff, but then it gets our other knight here. He'll kick it again. But there's also that queen h5 diagonal that's exposed because he played f5. So we could also sack a pawn potentially. He takes, we take, queen takes. We hop our other knight into the beautiful outpost. And then we have queen h5. That's nice. So one of these knights here, do we need to sack a pawn? If we just go here and he kicks us, Then we have the queen check. And if he just runs his king, that's suspicious. Here, he's almost guaranteed to take. And if we do go in here, how good is that for real? He just castles. I mean, even queen h5 there, I'm not threatening anything. So let's not sack a pawn. Let's choose this option. It's probably fine, but you would have to calculate a little further, or either way, this looks okay. Even en passant is I mean, I think anything you do is better for white, but I kind of want to keep this attacking structure. Because his pieces can't move. Like, where's this bishop going? And then this bishop, what's it looking at? But if it trades, you also have weak dark squares, so... Okay, so he kicks it, but he's not... Because he moves the pawn, this further weakens the g6 square, which he already weakened by moving the f pawn. So this queen check is devastating. We do have a knight in the way, though. So what do we do with the knight? I mean, you can obviously move it back. I guess that makes sense because A, he can't play g5, B, knight f2 and g4, breaking down this and steamrolling the pawns makes sense. So I'm going to go for this. It may look weird, but the position's closed, right? So both sides have, well, especially white, has a lot of time to do whatever they want and remaneuver and stuff because there's no tactics black's going to hit you with. There's no big threats because the position's locked and closed. And he also doesn't have any pieces on your side of the board, so he's also not castled or developed, and you have time is what I'm saying. So he kicks it, but I'm going to reroute it here, move my king over, and play g4, getting rid of this pawn so I can push f5, right? Okay, so he doesn't address his king. He keeps pawn storming on the queen side, which I like to see because I don't care about the queen side. So I'm going to get my king to h1, and he has no idea what this move is for. It just looks like a random move to him. He continues pushing his pawns. He actually really weakened the light squares by pushing in this order. So you could kind of go b3, but that would weaken your dark squares. I'm still going to ignore him. I'm going to bring my knight back. And now that I moved my knight, he could try to do something like g5, but in that case I'm going to take. It does open up his rook against my king, but I'm not worried about my king. So bishop a6 looks at this diagonal. He's trying to get activity this way. I get it. But he's made so many weird weaknesses in the squares around the pawns and on the pawn structure itself. Looks very ugly. So let's push g4 and do what, attack from here, even though it looks kind of crazy. We're opening up our king. It's still okay. We have lots of pieces around our king, and he's not aiming at our king. And we're trying to get to his king in the center by opening up the locked structure. He feels safe because the E and F pawns are locked, interlocked. So if we can break that down, his king will not feel safe. And so 1, 2, 3, he's making moves over here, which gives us that many turns to do what we want somewhere else. And at the end of the day, what is he achieving other than, let's say, a trade of a pawn or something? I don't know. Even if he wins a pawn, but what are we achieving? We're going to checkmate him if he doesn't castle. So he does castle, and now his rook is looking down here, so maybe he's considering opening it. So now we're gonna keep his rook completely restricted by pushing past and attacking a different pook. A different pook, I just said. I meant to say pawn and hook, so I said pook. We're attacking a different pawn that is a hook. Pook. It's a new chess term. And we're getting so deep in his position that he has no space for his pieces. And this is one of the best best ways to win, because it gives your opponent almost no counterplay because they have no space, and they end up just, no winning chances when you do stuff like this. Opening things up, oftentimes you still have an advantage, and you can, if you play perfectly, you can take advantage of that. But by positionally binding them, it's just like a method of control. So he goes h5 because he doesn't want to put my knight into his face, and his idea is to go g6 so that he can cement the structure and I can never attack him there, right? So if we go h4, he's going to go g6 and he's going to be safe. We don't want him to be safe. So we're going to potentially, even if this is a pawn sack, which it isn't at the moment, we're going to go g6 ourselves. We would even sack the pawn, like if he hits it with the queen or something, so that he can't play g6. And that way we still have squares, access, and lines to his king. So a move like this will be the difference between you winning the game and, oh, you let him play g6 and now you're never going to attack his king. Doesn't mean you're going to lose, because he also has weaknesses on the queen side, but my point is, don't let him cement, because that's what he wants. So now he moves a knight away from the center. Very weird move. Maybe to do this, I don't know. Very weird move, but I thought he was going to maybe attack it with the queen or try to do something, but he doesn't care. So, okay. I guess I'm going to move my rook towards the king. And then I'm going to move, like I want to take this pawn with my queen. So I need to move my knight. So if I move my knight, I don't know, here, and he takes it, can I just sack it, take this with my queen? I'm threatening checkmate. Oh, but then he can go bishop h6. That's funny. Okay, so here, I mean, we can take the bishop first, and he can't defend h5. He can go f4 himself, but I still take h5. He can move his rook, but check. That's terrible. Okay, so we're going to go knight g5. Basically, we're just trying to get our queen in for checkmate, and the knight's in the way. So we're making the most logical knight move to do that, because if you go here, it just hangs. So plus this is in his face. Plus it comes with this fork threat. You can't leave it there, so he has to take it, which gets rid of one of his bad restricted pieces. So in a sense, he should be happy to trade pieces, but he shouldn't be happy, because then I'm going to have two pawns totally locking him down, and the h5 pawn's going to fall, and then he's toast. So you can see how I'm using these pawns. Like, look at these three pawns, right? And it's just in his face. So I guess he doesn't really know what to do. He throws in this check, because, what else is there to do? So we could just move our king. Can we do something fancy like knight block, pawn takes? No, that doesn't work. So let's just move our king. And, I mean, he's not threatening anything on our king. He's threatening this pawn in the center. But that pawn did its work by removing the knight. So now, without this pawn, we're still golden, because we have these pawns, and these are the ones we need. Mostly the g6 pawn, because now when we take this is a checkmate. And the queen is in the middle of the board, potentially be hit by various things. We'll see. In the meantime, he has these two minor pieces that, I mean, what is the idea behind that? It's obviously based around c4, but then just play c4 all this time. And even when you get c4, I'm like, what is the real idea? You're basically attacking d3. but your king is under fire. And so the d3 pawn slash square is not as important. Okay, so he moves the rook to avoid the impending checkmate. So now check here, check here. We can't take the pawn because the queen defends it, but we can harass the queen. But I'm not even going to go for the checks because we have better. Okay, if I cut oh, I have a minute. In that case, let's just develop the bishop and bring the rook out. No more fanciness. I was calculating some stuff and then deflecting the queen to see if taking the pawn doesn't, like it's checkmate or not. It's not. So we're going to develop, and we're going to go rook e1 with tempo on the queen, and then maybe we're going to sack our knight on one of these squares to open up our rook. Oh wait, I could have done that last turn, right? I could have gone knight g4 hitting the queen, and if he takes, that's checkmate. Whoops. Okay, so he runs his king, but now the pawn's pinned. So now I get this move for free because he can't take it. He can take this pawn, but I mean, you can have all 4 of these pawns. I'm going to be going check. I wonder if I could use my knight. I wonder if I could sack my rook too. Check here. Okay, so he gives me this check. I'm just going to block with bishop so we get the turn back, kind of forcing him to... Oh, okay, so he takes my knight, but that's a blunder because that's pinned, my friend. That is pinned, my friend. And that makes the conversion a lot easier because I only had 40 seconds and I wasn't exactly sure. Okay, he's probably going to try to attack my king, which doesn't matter. Okay, trades are good for me, but we have a check here. We have 30 seconds. Let's just move. Don't expect amazingness. I'm just going to move. Since I'm up 7 points of material, none of my moves can be that bad, right? Okay, now that he put his king on the back rank, I'm going to go this way. Probably. I can take this pawn with my rook because the other pawn's pinned. He should definitely just move his king over. Okay, I'm just going to take things. I'm going to take things. Now I have this cemented square because the pawn protects. His king is in the middle of the board, and where's he going to go? Forward or back? Forward. Don't think this works well for him, but neither did back, so he had no choice but to go forward. 20 seconds. Here. Maybe just get a second queen, right? Let's just go here. Check. It made me waste half a second on my mouse. Okay, I need to checkmate him quickly. I'm going to try to open up the B file with this. Okay, never mind. He goes towards me. This is checkmate in 2. Rook B1 and queen A4. Huh. Yikes. That was way closer than I wanted it to be. Oh my god. Oh man. It's actually a lot harder to find a 1510 on Lichess than on chess.com. I mean, it's not harder, it just takes the queues are a little longer. That's all. And by a little, I mean like 5 times as much, but yeah. Wait, this is a blunder? H6, that's what he did. Knight H3, that's what happened. C4. Wait, what? Okay, it's just saying I give up my advantage by doing this. So en passant and knight d6. The other two moves I was looking at are better than this one. So if we go down this line, we throw our knight in here like we said, and let's just say he castles like we said. So yeah, we don't have any killer blow like obviously in c1. And so if we just go b3 or any of those developing moves, we're plus 0.9. Okay, and if we en passant and he takes, let's say with the bishop. This is that much better for us. c4, knight b6, knight takes f6, queen takes f6, knight e5, castles, and this is plus 2.5? You see, like, my brain doesn't see that. I mean, definitely, I would say white's better. I would definitely always want to be white. You have this beautiful knight on the outpost. He's got this weak pawn here. But plus 2.5, that's like a piece. And I'm not even up a pawn. And especially when the follow-up is just normal development in b3. Like, this is a long-term positional, plus 2.5, so I don't know. I don't see it. That's why I went down, hold on, let's see. So I went down the other line. So I went down here, they're saying, which ruins the advantage. But my whole idea, oh yeah, was if he takes, but he didn't take, he kicked me. But I thought that going back isn't that big a deal. They're saying if c4 and takes, I was going to do something like knight here. He's going to castle. And now they're saying they like black. So material's even. I mean, he does have the knight there, but what's the big deal? I don't know. I mean, if the engine says it's better, but it's not immediately obvious that I would pick black here. I mean, if he didn't have the c pawn to go here and kick a knight out, I would 1000% pick white. So to say black is just, you know, -1, it's tricky. His pawn structure's messed up. We have a far advanced pawn here. I don't know. See, this is stuff that I would want like people to explain to me, like a a grandmaster in human words as opposed to lines, let's say. So anyway, let's go through the game from the beginning because I skipped to my one blunder, which just ruins my advantage as opposed to hanging a piece or something, which is a much better way to blunder, although blunders aren't good either way. So we play the Sicilian and we develop towards the center. And now we develop again towards the center with our idea of taking the knight and creating this pawn chain. So that's what we do. And we just create this pawn chain. Our plan is to play f4, bring the knight out, castle, maybe attack him on the king side where our pawns are aiming. So we play f4, and now we even play e5 because he walks right into it. So it's a move that's for free, and it opens up this square for our knight, which is where we want our knight. And right now it says it's plus 1.5, and so white's already way better here. Okay, he plays this, and it's funny because I was going to say to play c4, because you want to fix these pawns, which would then be double isolated if he takes. But I said, you know what, let me try to just do 0, because normally I play moves like b3, c4, a4, but I wanted to try to play a Grand Prix style where you completely ignore him on the queen side and invest all your tempi on the king side. So we played the knight out, which again, I told you guys he should be looking for c4. The engine's agreeing. He should be trying to break this down because he has no other ideas. Now I'm curious if he does do this, and I was gonna ignore him, and he takes, and you take with the queen. Like, what was the point of that whole operation for him? It just opens up the D file, so I guess we can't checkmate his king because we have to play down the center all of a sudden. So that was, I guess, his best try. But he didn't do that. We brought out a knight. He didn't push c4. We didn't push c4. The engine clearly wants that to stop his counterplay. But we castle because we were investing all of our tempi on the king side. And now he plays f5. Here, we're still up plus 1.2 or whatever. And they want you to, you get that advantage with the en passant line, creating weaknesses for him. And a nice knight in the center for you. And this does look better. So yeah, this does look nice. And then the knight d6 check line that I showed you. But I went here, and they say this spoils my advantage because of h6, going back, and c4. He did not play c4, he played this one, and now we're back to being better. We go king h, king h1, and we're back to being worse. Because again, we're not stopping this c4 idea. I guess it's so important that you just need to stop it. So if we play c4, I mean, he's not going to take. So he's going to go knight b4 because taking is ridiculous. We're not going to take. And now we have this pawn. We fix his pawn structure. And he can never break it down because we can always defend it. And then we can attack the king side. Takes, takes, takes. Knight here. Queen here. I mean, this is just another nice position for white. Just more space, better structure. What did we do? Oh, yeah, we moved our king. He's still supposed to play c4, but he played this. Now we try to improve our knight, and I said this was the one time he can try for g5 because we moved our knight and it no longer defends the square. Well, if you take this, he's going to take with the h-pawn, and you're going to have to go g4 anyway. If you go g4 first, and he takes this pawn, we'll take this, he'll take this, and what's our move? Okay, just leave the structure like that, blunting his bishop, more double isolated junk, and we play around it. Tricky, tricky. Very tricky stuff. So he went here, trying to develop, and now we go g4. Engine hates it. Our idea is to break down this pawn structure, right? But again, engine just says c4 is always good. If c4, I would have taken here. Because again, I was ignoring him on the queen side. And okay, here. This looks like a good square. And this is better, clearly better for black, it says. Is it? I mean, I know I have a ton of weaknesses, right? He can put his bishop here. He can put dark square pressure here. But I mean, he's going to go g6 just to protect the pawn. And how bad can this be for white? I guess he has this long diagonal, but it's not so obvious that it's as bad as the engine's saying. I'm sure if you go down the lines, but when you're playing a chess game, you don't have all the lines like 10, 15 moves ahead. So that doesn't help you. I mean, obviously, if someone said, "Do you think this is risky?" I would say yes. Okay, so that's fair. And if they said, "What else would you do if you wanted to play a solid move, one that you know can't be bad for your position?" Well, then I'd resort back to b3, trying to control c4. But I still don't like making the dark square weakness, so I wouldn't even do that. What would I do? Is a4 a move? No. I don't really know. That's why I want to go g4. I was preparing it with the king. I want to move this knight also to get in here. You can maybe go rook g1 and then g4 to try to prepare it. That might be something. Or I guess just go b3, and when he jumps in here, just move your queen. And then hit it with the bishop. Probably that. But now it's saying black is, plays on this side. And he's better. I can see some of that. How do you even defend against this? Takes. This opens up his rook. We play g4 to stop the pawn. He hits the queen. We move the queen. And this is just a lot better for black. Winning for black. Okay, I mean, yeah, it looks good for black, definitely now. Don't know if I'd say winning, but it looks good. Doesn't look terrible. I don't know. It's so hard to evaluate. Because, like, if I can get a knight here, I kind of like white. And so to say that white's just lost is crazy. If he ever pushes this pawn, you have this beautiful square in the center. If he ever takes, you have another nice knight square and an open rook. I guess maybe just tactically you have too many weaknesses, but this is not obvious to me. Okay, so we push g4, and he just castles when they say he should have played c4 or taken. And this gives us the opportunity to keep pushing. Again, c4 is always the best move. He pushes past, and now the engine is saying we're completely winning, but +3 all of a sudden if we find the only move g6. Like I said, if you do anything else, he's going to play g6 and cement the structure. You can never open lines. We play g6, he goes here, and now the game is just lost for him. And that's how crazy the engine is, and evaluations and move by move. It's like, I mean, it says I was lost and this is a blunder, and it's like, I don't know. If you're good enough, yeah, I guess. So now we jump our knight in here, and it's still completely winning because this pawn's hanging, and we're gonna checkmate him like we planned. He has to take. We recapture, and these pawns are amazing. It's +3. These checks don't actually matter. You have to move your king though. He takes his pawn, which just wastes time when we're checkmating him. So we take the free stuff with the idea of checkmate. He creates an escape square for the king, and you could go for this check, but at the end of the day, it's not mate, so you're gonna have to bring in new stuff anyway. So the best moves are to develop your bishop so that you can include your other rook. Once we realize we have less than a minute, just develop the bishop. And here, it's +9. With the rook moves or the knight moves, doesn't even matter. So you could definitely do the rook move first, but then if you did the knight move after that, it wouldn't come with tempo on the queen. So I did the knight move first just to get the tempo, but I guess you could say the same thing, that when the queen moves now, you won't get the tempo with the rook. So that's fair. So he gives me this other weird check, but then I just get the turn back, so that's a weird check to give. Oh no, I know. He gave the check because he thought he was going to win the knight and get the queen trade, winning the game. But this is, of course, a blunder. King e7. And now I had no time, so I'm panicking. I just moved my queen on an open diagonal. And then I just took a free thing with check, which I didn't even see till right now because I was panicking. I brought in my last piece, aimed it at the king with free stuff. He's protecting the pawn, but he wasn't protecting this one, right? So I could have taken it. But instead, because his king is now in the back rank and the rook's not looking, queen infiltration is awesome because you're gonna, end the game if you can do that. So I did that, and now he tries to. I don't know if he was I don't know why he put the knight here. Because if I give him this check, he can't block with the knight, so that's weird. But I took the knight just because 20 seconds, panicking, making a trade. And then I took free stuff, and then I just checkmated him in a couple moves. And that's that. And here's an example of a game that I misevaluated the position, thinking I was just like much better. But apparently if black found some weird line that I'm still don't understand well, they're much better. So luckily for us that didn't happen. But now we know that when we get into the same Sicilian, we're not going to do our test of ignoring the queen side completely, right? Because we've had the same structure in other games and we've always played b3 or c4. Here we didn't, and apparently you really need to, so we're going to continue playing those moves in the future. But now we know for sure it's drilled in here, and if you play the same Sicilian, bishop b5, I mean, now you know. So chess is hard. Evaluation skills are super important. If you don't know if you're better or worse, how do you know if you should take the decision or not, right? That's why evaluation is like the number one to me. So this was kind of long. Good luck in your chess. Evaluate your games, analyze them. Goodbye.